Hey everyone, welcome to the Grow with Glow podcast. On this podcast, what we're going to do is talk about pursuing health naturally, find you natural remedies that aren't in the headlines, as well as increase your leadership skills and your influence. Hey, let's call it what it is. Everybody's got to perform on a daily basis. And if you're an entrepreneur running a business or running a household, there are things you need to do in an efficient and timely manner. And the more productivity you can get out of your body without harming your body, it's of benefit to everyone. This podcast is about bringing my resources to you in a natural, holistic lifestyle. If you are in a position of leadership and authority, then you're going to love the things we talk about in here to work on yourself, but also the things that you can do to work within your family as well as your community. Today, what I'm going to do is take the Mindy Pels podcast that we did together and break it down just a little further. Occasionally on these individual podcasts that I do solo, I'm going to reserve the right to review some science and some research. But I want to do that in a way that's fun and edutaining, which means it's educational and entertaining. And it's not just mundane and boring. And one of the examples I'm going to give today is a scientific study that I think will give you some extra motivation as we go through this, or possibly some added inspiration. And the difference I would tell you is motivation sometimes is outside in. An outside motivator is the roar of the crowd, and you want to please the crowd, and you wind up like Maximus saying, "Are you not entertained?" And that is for the crowd. The inspired person really means in spirit. And when you are in spirit, you are in your greatness. You are working with your own innate intelligence, and it's what fires you up. Big difference. Motivation's outside in, inspiration's inside out. I want you to be in spirit, ethos, to be on fire and championing the causes you want. And when you are inspired, you're willing to go a little further, a little deeper into a process that sometimes is uncomfortable. So what I'm going to do is break down this topic of fasting one more time, what we would call the double click. And as we go through this double click, what I want to do is really highlight what's happening in an hour-by-hour segment. If you like what I've shared, I've got some bonus material that I'll turn you on to, also of Dr. Mindy Pels. And where that's going to be located is on my Grow with Glow YouTube channel. Before I get into those details, what I do want to do is let you know that this is a scientific review. And sometimes people will say, well, as a chiropractor, how much of the science do you like to get into? In practice, I'm going to say what's proficient, meaning there's an amount that we need to do to apply with our patients. But from a podcast and a teaching perspective, and I also run a consulting business called Level Up, what I do is I teach doctors how to teach their patients. And part of what I want to do this podcast for is a safe haven for you to say, hey, go watch this interview. Hey, go listen to this talk. Hey, go listen to this bonus material. And it's free patient education, whether you practice acupuncture, you work as a massage therapist, a holistic practitioner, a naturopath, chiropractor, physio. The whole idea is I want to turn people onto remedies outside of big pharma and start to teach people how to switch on the genetic coding they have and work with their metabolism, their body, and their potential, which to me as an athlete has always been an empty word. You see, potential needs to be filled, and that goes back to thermodynamics. Your potential energy equals your kinetic energy. When your potential is high, it means you didn't do a lot. But as you start to do a lot, your potential goes lower. And one of the worst things I could hear as an athlete was, "You have a lot of potential, kid," which told me I didn't get much done on the practice field today. When you are maxing out your potential, then there's very little left in the tank because you're already getting all the juice for the squeeze, if that makes sense. So as we get into this, what I'm going to do is just take one journal article today. It's a meta-study. What that means for those of you not familiar with the science is a meta-study is a study of studies. And this particular meta-study comes from the New England Journal of Medicine. So this is not a chiropractic study. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but this is the New England Journal of Medicine. This study was done by two PhDs, Cabo and Matson. And what's important about a meta-study is it's a highly ranked study. It's a very valuable study because it's basically an article that's written about a bunch of research, a bunch of studies. Again, it's a study of numerous studies. So it's really a good sample size. It shows it over different parameters. And what I'm going to do is go through this particular fasting mechanism and at different hours of the fast give you what's going on in your body. hopefully move you from motivation to inspiration. So if you know that at 17, 18 hours, things are going to get a little tough, but here's what's happening at 24 hours. Here's the benefits at 36 hours. Let me take you all the way over to 72 hours. Then maybe you're motivated beyond the external and you get into the inspiration in spirit to keep going, keep pushing, because you know what's happening in your body. And I know how I work. If I know the fence posts, I know the bookmarks, I know the benchmarks, I know the furlongs as we go through this race, then I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep driving. And if you're anything like me, it is far better when you do it for yourself than you're trying to please your coach or you're trying to please, the girlfriend in the stands. Like, it's got to be for you. It's got to be an internally driven process. And I also want to share, if you are running a business in a position of leadership, you're an entrepreneur, then you at some point have to embrace the suck. You have to embrace the parts of the job that just aren't fun. And you got to make it a game. And it might even be a head game. But you got to tell yourself that waking up at 5 a.m. on a cold morning by yourself is a good thing. You got to tell yourself that jumping on a bike to drive it over to the gym is what makes you different than anybody else. You got to tell yourself that working late night in your office when every other business is closed is what's going to separate you from the pack. And you got to find ways to make it a game. You got to find ways to make it fun. What I like to do is know the benchmarks, know the scorecard. And if I keep pushing all the way through to 72 hours in a fast, here's the true benefits to you. How do I know this is true? Because it's from a meta study. I always have to consider the source of the study. And this particular source is New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most highly regarded medical journals in the world. And because it's a study of multiple studies, this is a really good sample size. It's a ton of people. What I would also tell you is the other end of the spectrum might be what's called a case study. It's just one person who had results. So that is not this. And again, as a PhD, 2 people getting together on this, Cabo and Matson, this is what they found. Basically, when people fast, you are tapping into the ketogenic energy source. I think one of the most beautiful things Mindy said was, this is actually the ability of your body to run kind of like a hybrid car. We can get you off of gasoline and into the electric by flipping a switch. And when you get into the ketogenic part of this, I also shared that I typically fast on Mondays. The exception would be is if I'm out of the country or if I'm on a holiday. So if I'm out of the country, sometimes I won't fast on a Monday. I'm dealing with jet lag. When I get back from being out of the country, I fast immediately because it helps me clear up jet lag. But it also keeps my fasting somewhat irregular. Usually it's on a Monday, but there's probably 10 Mondays a year, 12 Mondays a year where I'm not fasting. So it's irregular enough, but yet I'm fasting regularly, partly because when you get these ketones released in your brain, it will supercharge your brain. My clarity is high. My dopamine is high. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. I wake up earlier when I finish my 36 hours of fasting, and it feels phenomenal. But I'm going to walk you through 24, 36, 48, all the way through 72. So you decide where you want to get off this journey. Or maybe you decide, hey, I'm going to stick in for the next phase of this, the next chapter of this, because it's huge. And again, this is all based on science. This is a meta study from the New England Journal of Medicine. Let me get right to it. First of all, no food, just water as you go through 15, 16, 17 hours. There's a bit of a range there that the research suggests anywhere from 15 to 17 hours. You are decreasing your blood sugar. You are increasing your growth hormone, which I wish I would have known that in my teenage years. Hello, could have used a growth spurt, never got one. You would increase your growth hormone. And then number 3, it slows the aging process. Okay, so 15 to 17 hours, which simply means if you eat dinner at 6 p.m. and you don't eat until lunch the next day, you have the benefit of decreased blood sugar, increased growth hormone, and it slows the aging process. Now, if you can push through to 24 hours, what this meta study shows us is that it regenerates and basically repopulates the microbiome so that your body's ready and absorbent for proper food intake, meaning your body's thirsty for nutrients. It's not going to be looking for sugars. It's going to be looking for nutrients and essential nutrients that your body needs to operate, to heal, to boost the immune system. If you continue your fast beyond 24 hours and we can hit into the 36 hours, then what your body starts to do is it just starts to burn fat in a hyper state. Your brain says, okay, it's now been a day and a half. We don't have food. We're feeling very primal. It's as though we came out of a hibernation, out of the cave. We're now a day and a half without food. We need to get rid of this extra layer of fat. And quintessentially, it starts to burn that. This is also when you can see this on people's faces, which again, is kind of why I like doing the 36 hours. You'll notice it. Maybe most importantly, my children notice it. And if I can get a compliment from my daughters, bingo, game on. And it just takes a little bit of that external motivation from my daughters and from my wife saying, hey, you look good. Damn right. Been fasting for 36 hours. Welcome to Grow with Glow, the show where we explore ways to stay healthy naturally and grow your influence. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, the clean salt electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. There's no sugar, just the essentials for optimal hydration. Whether you're an athlete, busy professional, or just someone who wants to stay hydrated, Element is designed for you. So what sets Element apart? Well, it's the science-backed formulation. You see, Element is created by experts who understand the importance of electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium in maintaining proper hydration and supporting overall health. These electrolytes are crucial for muscle function, energy, and anything that makes Element stand out is its commitment to real, clean ingredients. You won't find any artificial sweeteners or flavors in here. Element is keto-friendly, paleo-friendly, and suitable for a variety of dietary preferences. And here's the best part. For our listeners, Element has a special offer. Your first purchase through the website and the link below in the show notes will get you an offer where a complimentary package is sent with the purchase of your first item. So again, use the link in the show notes, and when you make a purchase, you will get a complimentary pack at no extra fee. You're going to enjoy it, and again, it's paleo and keto friendly, keeping you hydrated. The inspiration, which is what pushed me to do the 48 hours. Now at 48 hours, this is what's happening. You get new dopamine receptors, increased motivation, you feel good because the dopamine actually is open, the gates are open to accept whatever's going on in the body. And the truth is you get a natural high. 2 days into your fast, you'll be working at a much higher level. The ketones energize and excite the brain. The dopamine receptors are open, which means you start to feel good, which I know is a bit counterintuitive while you're fasting. Many people think this is a miserable experience. And then what happens at 72 hours is we get the immune response. We have an increase in white blood cells. We have an increase in stem cells. And yes, I am talking about the same stem cells that oftentimes the athletes are seeking. And Mindy and I spoke of this when we sat down together. She had an Achilles injury and she pushed beyond 3 days to 5 days. And she swears her Achilles injury never came back. Not only did it heal and could she feel it healing, but it never came back. I've had patients with disc injuries, herniations, that I've suggested they fast. Now, if it's a low back disc herniation, when you bear down, go to move your bowels, that can actually hurt tremendously for a disc herniation. But you couple that with the fact that people who are fasting 72 hours have stem cell increase, the body's healing, and you're not damaging and pushing and creating more injury to the area. And it's a double positive. It's a win for the body, and it's a win from the rest and recovery cycle. So again, looking at your body and how this works. I want to point out 15 to 17 hours. There's a bit of a range there. You're decreasing your blood sugar. You're increasing your growth hormone. And you basically reverse the aging process. 24 hours, your microbiome's like, hey, this isn't happening. We're not getting food. We got to rearrange the gut. No time for the toxic stuff. No time for the sugar. We got to get on with it. 36 hours, which means if you stop eating Sunday night and don't start eating until Tuesday morning, you go into hyper weight burning, fat burning mechanisms. 48 hours, dopamine receptors are increased. You start to feel good. You get a little bit of a high, it's a bit of a buzz. It's a really cool thing. And it's also why people who are food addicted become fast addicted. Who wouldn't love that, right? And then at 72 hours, bam, that is the immune system response. Viruses don't have their own energy systems, which means things like viruses that have caused lockdowns, you can tap into your own innate immune system and really give it a supercharge by not eating anything. Drinking water, make sure you don't have sugars in your water. Make sure you're not drinking Gatorade. That doesn't count as water. I've had people put maple syrup in their water. That's high sugar content. Do not stimulate the insulin. Do not fool your body into thinking a little bit of sugar or Gatorade is coming in. That would be a bad thing. So just to be clear, Gatorade's bad. Drink water with element in it. And then ultimately you get this huge boost. Now, if you just heard your phone ring, my bad, you just got punked. That was me calling, just reminding you that life is good. And again, on this podcast, what we're going to do is a little bit of edutainment. So if your phone just rang, that was just me calling to say, hey, you're phenomenal. We are blessed. There is no such thing as luck. The harder you work, the more in tune you get with your body, the more blessed you become. And I want you to be a blessing to other people where you have goodness, positivity in your body and your health, and you start to vibrate at a higher level. When you share that with other people, then that's what goes around. The truth is, what you bring to the office every day, what you bring to work every day, maybe you're a teacher, what you bring to school every day, that becomes the environment. What you resonate and give off to the other people becomes the environment you live in, because let's call it what it is. If you're working 8 hours a day, it's a third of your life. Create a positive and healthy environment. We're going to do this in a real playful manner on this podcast, but what we just covered is one of the most serious studies, because it was a meta-study that was given permission in the New England Journal of Medicine. And I'm going to tell you, this is something that a lot of pharmaceutical companies didn't want to get out, because they have drugs, they have products, they have chemicals they will sell you at a high profitability rate when you take their medications and their products for these problems, but you don't tap into your own innate ability. So this particular meta-study caused a bit of a problem for the pharmaceutical companies, and really quickly they'll try to bury it or refute it. And the beautiful thing about a meta-study is it's a study of studies. And so this really positions the conversation for medical doctors to be tapping in and doing patient education. But oftentimes they don't have the time to do that, and I don't fault them. What I do want to do is create an avenue here for natural, healthy, holistic doctors to maybe use this as part of your patient education. And if you like this particular conversation with the hours and the benchmarks, and again, a little bit of inspiration to continue to fast, to get through a little bit of the brain fog, which may hit you the first couple of times you do it, but by the fourth, fifth time you choose to fast, you won't even have that. But the indicator and some of the fog and some of the cravings and the insulin driving, like, I got to eat something, you don't. You really don't. That usually comes from toxicities, patterns, and food addictions. And one of the best ways to break them is to fast, to just not satiate the addiction. And the first 2, 3, maybe even 4 times, you might have some of that. But good for you, because the more you don't cave, the longer you go, the hours that you push, I want you to see what's worth it. So what I did in this particular podcast is something I'm going to do in the future. I'll take a study, I'll break it down. I'll give you the cliff notes. I'm going to give you the information, but I want you to know it's beyond my opinion. It's an opinion shared in an alternative field. It's an opinion shared by people that don't work for pharmaceutical companies. It's the truth. And when you start to experience it, which happens to be the highest level of learning, I have a good feeling you won't go back to the dark side. You won't go the other way and start to toxify your body. You'll be looking at ways to detoxify, which is actually what a fast is doing. So 15 to 17 hours is the first window. 24 hours is the second window. 36, 48, and eventually 72. If you like this particular segment and podcast, I've got a bonus session of Mindy Pell speaking to a private client event. I've got one of the biggest consulting groups in the profession of chiropractic, one of the biggest groups, and I had Mindy come out and speak to my clients. And what I'll do is I'll share with you almost 30 minutes of her from the stage on this particular topic, diving into this in a little greater detail, but also in the 30 minutes, there's going to be a bunch of extra stuff that she shares that we didn't share in the sit-down interview. So let me be abundantly clear. We are going to share high points on my Instagram, which is Dr. Glow DC. Go to my Instagram. You can find some high points. I will be dropping podcasts here on this channel regularly. And I also have a YouTube, Grow with Glow. Grow with Glow is going to be where you can find a longer version of a stage presentation of Mindy by herself. Now, it's my group and I'm there, but it isn't a Q&A. It's Dr. Pell's with a PowerPoint pointing out some of the research. She goes through some of this article, and some of this will be information that you won't find anywhere else. So if you enjoyed this sit-down podcast over on my YouTube, there is a longer stage presentation that she's giving as a keynote. Different material, different format, same beautiful energy. She's awesome, but I want to let you know, as a fan and a follower, if you jump over there, you'll get an extra dose of content from her. And it's basically a double win for you because we covered some different material, and it's basically a format that is her and an excitable crowd. They're cheering her on. It's electric, and you could tell she's feeding off the energy from the crowd. So if you enjoy her laugh, her smile, her enthusiastic, authentic way of delivering, then jump over there to YouTube, Grow with Glow, check it out. I'll be doing some scientific reviews, but I promise to not make it bad or boring. And if you enjoyed being punked, or if you looked for your phone, or you looked around your car because you were driving, drop me a positive comment. We're going to have some fun as we teach you. We're going to do this in a free format. But who said life couldn't be fun? Because for me, if it ain't fun, I'm not doing it. Cheers, everyone. Join us again for a Grow with Glow episode, keeping health and humanity on the uptick. Cheers. I'll see you next time.